going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video, how to predict a top 5 running back. In this video, I want to go over some of the characteristics of top 5 running backs since 2003 and see if we can draw any conclusions from them. Are there certain characteristics that matter more than others? Are there things that we talk about that don't really matter? We'll look at a few of those things in this video, as well as look ahead to 2019 and see if we can find some maybe not so obvious running backs that have top 5 potential. So as always, if you enjoy our content, then make sure to leave us a like. It helps us know you approve of what we're doing here. But let's start things off like we always do with the stat of the day. Yesterday's stat: among running backs with at least 100 snaps where they ran a pass route, who saw the highest percent of those snaps come from the slot? The answer was Jalen Samuels. 300 Piglow was the first one to get that one right. Today's stat: there has been just one running back since 2003 to finish in the top 5 on a team that produced less than 12 points per game. What is his name? Alright, let's start this video. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to talk about some characteristics of top 5 running backs since 2013, and we're going to start with receptions. Just 3.75% have had fewer than 20 receptions. Just 22% have seen fewer than 40 receptions. Now this is with half-point PPR leagues, and it's fairly clear that if you want to finish as a top 5 running back, you need to be involved in the passing game. 96.25% have seen 20 or more receptions. And what I've done for all of these stats is I've shown a graphic that relates to them. It's not the exact same thing, but it's something that relates to it. The x-axis is always going to be the running back rank. So if you look at the screen now, the average running back 1 since 2003 has seen around 58 to 59 receptions, whereas the running back 10 has seen around 39 receptions. Let's move on to carries. 85% of top 5 running backs have seen greater than 250 carries. 67.5% have seen more than 275 carries, and 47.5%, nearly half of all top 5 running backs, have seen more than 300 carries. And it also ties into touchdowns though, right? Because if the carries aren't there, then the touchdowns better be there. You need to see volume. You got to score points somehow, right? 95% of all top 5 running backs have seen at least 285 carries or double-digit touchdowns, and that moves up to 97.5% have seen at least 250 carries or double-digit touchdowns. If you're not going to see at least 250 carries, you need to be on a good offense, one that's able to give you, just you, double-digit scores. Just look at the slope of this total touchdown graphic. If you want to finish towards the top, you've got to be part of an offense that can score points. The running back 1 is averaging over 19 touchdowns. That's insane. You're not going to score 19 touchdowns as part of a bad offense. But let's talk about offenses. Just 6 of the 80, 7.5%, were on teams that scored fewer than 19 points per game. 73.75% were on teams that scored more than 22 points per game, and 31.25%, nearly a quarter, have been on teams that score more than 26 points per game. So those are some things that do matter. But what are some things that we look at that might not matter as much as we think? Well, the first is yards per carry. Now, yards per carry does matter a little bit, but not a whole lot. 88.75% have had greater than 4 yards per attempt. 68.75% have seen 4.4 or more yards per attempt, and then 26.25 have seen greater than 5 yards per carry. So basically, you can't be terrible. Like 88.75% have seen more than 4 yards per carry. You can't be bad. You can't be like a 3.5 yards per carry guy. But as long as you're average, then the volume can make up for your inefficiency. So I'm looking at you, Leonard Fournette. You can be fine if they're just going to feed you. We do see a greater yards per carry average among the elite running backs, but there are plenty of cases, if you look at it, where a top 5 running back has been very inefficient and just seen massive volume. Another thing that doesn't matter is plays per game, and I was a little bit surprised at this one. There wasn't any noticeable difference in the percent of top 5 running backs from higher play per game offenses than that of all running backs. Now that may have sounded confusing, but essentially it's this. If you pick a filter for plays per game, say 63 plays per game, the percent of top 5 running backs that were on offenses that ran more than 63 plays per game wasn't all that different than the percent of total running backs on teams that ran more than 63 plays per game. The biggest difference was at 61, but it wasn't large enough to say that there's a pattern there. So just using the fact that a team is going to see, 64, 65, 66 plays per game doesn't mean they're going to produce a top 5 running back, and the opposite is also not true. Just saying that a team is only going to run 58, 59 plays per game, that also doesn't mean they won't produce a top 5 running back. So what are we looking for? We've talked about a few things that matter and don't matter, but if we were to list them out as a filter, what are they? Well, yards per carry and plays per game are out. We won't be using those. And team scoring is also difficult to enforce. I could use last season's number and then adjust for changes in the offense, but that gets a little bit iffy, and I don't want to just make assumptions as to what teams are going to do this season that I can't back up, so we're not going to use that. For carries and touchdowns, we're going to use that dual filter I talked about, more than 285 carries or double-digit touchdowns, since 95% of all top 5 running backs hit this, and we're going to use 40 as the filter for receptions, since 77.5% had more than 40 receptions. If we use that with my projections, which you can find on our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, then you get this. And this list makes sense, right? It's basically the first 2 rounds, excluding a few people, of running backs. But that's no fun, right? Like me telling you that the guys going the first 2 rounds have the best chance of finishing top 5, that's not very exciting. I mean, it's true, but it's not very exciting. So what I did next was expand the filter, because right now I could have someone projected for 9.7 touchdowns. Well, they won't be included because I said 10. But someone projected for 9.7 touchdowns could absolutely have a path to 10 touchdowns, right? I mean, that just makes sense. So here's the next set of filters. Either 270 carries or 10 total touchdowns plus 30 or more receptions. And this is what the list looks like. Now, this one's a little bit better. It adds basically the rest of the second round, and then Kenyon Drake, who we do like, and I'm very excited he made the filter, but I want to find someone going in the middle rounds that has a shot. So here is the third and final filter. We've expanded to 260 or more carries, 7.5 plus touchdowns, and 28 or more receptions. All of those stats, if someone is projected to see that volume, could easily hit that first threshold. That is in their range of outcomes. And here is the final list of guys. The names added under these final settings are obviously everyone that was already included, plus James White, Aaron Jones, Devonta Freeman, Ronald Jones, and Tevin Coleman. And this is actually a really interesting list of guys. We know Jones and Freeman make a ton of sense, right? Both of them should have great seasons if they can stay healthy. I would not be shocked if either of them finished top 5 playing full 16 weeks. James White's path is with the touchdowns. We just saw him finish with 10 touchdowns. So if he does something like that again, then he does have a chance to finish among the top 5. Ronald Jones is also interesting if he can win that starting job. He's got the lowest reception projection among this entire list, and he's someone I'd be a little bit surprised to see hit 40 receptions, but they should be in above average offense, and there are a lot of room for leftover targets after Hump and Jackson left. So do I think he finishes top 5? No, I don't. But there's a world where if everything goes right, he could. But realistically, everything would need to go right, and that typically doesn't happen. But the name that I'm most excited about on this list is Tevin Coleman. I'm a firm believer that Kyle Shanahan is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I'm not going to put him in the top 3 just yet, but he's for sure in the top 5 to 7. And what he was able to do with that team last season, with what they had, was incredible. He designed plays that did just an amazing job at putting his players in the best possible position to succeed. Now that offense gets Jimmy Garoppolo back, they get Pettis healthy, they drafted Deebo Samuel, and they signed Coleman. They're not going to be an offense that defensive coordinators want to game plan for this season. And Coleman has very real upside, especially if they do what they said they might in just keeping 2 of Coleman, Breida, and McKinnon active each week. And one of them might be a healthy scratch every week. And if they do that, Coleman is the least likely of that bunch to be the healthy scratch. So I expect big things from this offense in 2019. And it would not shock me at all if Coleman had a big year. So it's very exciting to have seen him pass through the final set of filters. So that's how you can go through the process of predicting a top 5 running back, and those are the backs that have the best chance according to my research. And remember, you can always have access to my latest rankings and projections to do something like this at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And like always, be sure to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But that's the end of this video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, how about leaving a like on the video, and how about subscribing if you're new here? But thanks for watching.